Hi there, my name is Tyler McGee, and for our current and emerging trends in the curriculum project, I chose the topic of social emotional learning, also known as SEL. And the reason why I chose SEL is because this is something that the district that I work for, the Council Bluffs Community School District, has invested in. And it's something that we continue to receive professional development around. And it's something that we continue to begin to implement into our classrooms throughout the district. So when I first heard about social emotional learning, or SEL, is my first question, of course, is, well, what is that? And something that I was surprised to learn is that SEL is actually something not only for children, it's actually something for adults as well. And some of the skills that SEL tries to focus on is understanding and managing emotions, setting and achieving positive goals, feeling and showing empathy for each other, establishing and maintaining positive relationships, and making responsible decisions. So those are all skills, of course, that we want our students to have, and we want them to have practice and to learn and to build from. But those are all things that, as adults, we can all improve on those things as well. So it's actually beneficial for both educators and for students as well. Now, we all know as teachers, we do not just teach children the prescribed academic curriculum. We are constantly having conversations with students about behavior and making responsible decisions and setting goals for ourselves. So the whole idea of SEL is that it's not one more thing that teachers have to do. This is actually something that we do as teachers every single day. And SEL, or the adoption of an SEL program, really just helps to give teachers tools and strategies to be able to have these conversations with students. Now, before we go any further, it's very, very important that when talking about SEL and talking about these skills, these are personal things. So it's going to be very important, in order to get the most out of this for you and for your students. It's important to have a relationship with students, and it's important to have that rapport and that trust with students before you begin talking about these different things. If you come to school on the very first day of school and the students don't really know you yet, and you start talking about some of these very personal skills, then it might not have the best impact on students. It's best first to have that trust, have that rapport with students, and then we can begin having those conversations and working on those skills with students. Okay. Now, the next question oftentimes that comes up from teachers is, well, why do we want social emotional learning? Okay. And according to Haggerty, children with strong SEL skills have shown to excel in school, both socially and academically. Now, as teachers, that's absolutely what we want from students. And it's what students want for themselves as well. We want students to have a positive learning experience at school, both academically and socially. And research has shown that if students feel comfortable at school and they have that foundation of a safe and positive learning experience, then students are going to be able to perform their very, very best academically. And like I said, that's what we want as teachers. And of course, that's what students and parents want as well. It's unrealistic for us to expect students to always know how to understand and manage their emotions, how to set goals for themselves, and make responsible decisions. And so this is a great opportunity for us as teachers to step in and to give them practice with these skills, and also to provide them with instructions and feedback. Okay, so that hopefully helps to explain a little bit about what is social emotional learning and why do we want that, okay, for our students, and why we think that would make our students better academically as well. Now, the next question that oftentimes comes up is, well, what does social emotional learning actually look like? Now, there are several different social emotional learning programs out there, but the program that my school district has decided to invest in is one that's called Panorama, and I'll talk about that here in just a few minutes. But the five main topics, or the five main skills that most of these SEL programs focus on, are listed right here: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. Now, when you go through some of these different programs, there are some programs that have added different skills, and there's some programs that have kind of reworded some of these five, but these are absolutely the common themes that we see with all of these SEL programs. Now, the one, like I said earlier, the one that Council Bluffs Schools has invested in is called Panorama, and I'm going to be showing you kind of a little bit about what that looks like on the teacher side of things. Now, this is the teacher homepage for the Panorama for the Council Bluffs Community School District. And what we do is we actually provide students with an SEL survey that they take 3 times a year, once at the beginning, once in the middle, and once towards the end. And the SEL survey asks them reflective questions about self-management, responsible decision-making, etc. And it, of course, is not something that's graded. And we just encourage students to be honest with themselves and rate themselves on how they feel they do with some of those different skills in different scenarios. At the end of the survey, it sends students their results, so students are able to actually reflect on how well they do with skills like responsible decision-making and self-management. And as the teacher, I can actually see how well they did on those different skills. And I have something called a playbook. And this is what I was talking about, that SEL, these programs actually give teachers strategies and resources to use in order to help students perform better on those types of things. So if I click on playbook here, it's actually going to take me to a screen that looks like this. And if I see that my students in my advisement class, for example, are not doing very good with self-management, if I click on self-management, it will take me to a page where it will give me a whole bunch of activities and lessons that I can provide students on how they can better work on those things. Whenever I talk with teachers about SEL, they don't want one more thing to have to do. And the nice thing about SEL is that it's not one more thing that we have to do. These are all beneficial things that students absolutely need. And it's conversations that we are already having with students. And all this does is it helps to provide us with more tools and more strategies to better help students with these different things. You can see here of all the different ways or all the different strategies and activities where we can help students with different things that they may need help on. And it doesn't have to be from the survey either. It could be something that you're just seeing in your classroom every day, and you think, oh, well, we need some help with the school and classroom climate, or we need to help with growth mindset. And we can absolutely do that, and we can focus on that, and we can provide those opportunities for students. Okay. Now, the last thing that I wanted to talk about today is my experience with SEL. So when I was first exposed to SEL, it was about 5 years ago when I started teaching summer school at the Omaha Henry Dorley Zoo. So the Council Bluffs Community School District actually has a partnership with the zoo, and we have a 6-week-long summer program where Council Bluffs students are able to spend time exploring the zoo in a structured setting. So Council Bluffs teachers, such as myself, and zoo staff actually work together to develop exploration and activities for students to do each and every day. And we focus, of course, on the animals, and we focus on their habitats, and it's just a great learning experience for students altogether. Now, the Council Bluffs schools said that they wanted social and emotional learning to be part of this experience. Now, when I first heard this, I was a little hesitant about it because as you could imagine, middle school kids being at the zoo are very, very excited to be there. They're there with their friends and they're ready to have a good time. I thought the last thing that they would want to do is talk about self-management and social awareness and all kinds of other different things. But like I stated earlier, developing that rapport and that trust with students, it actually was really, really easy to incorporate these things into our everyday exploration and our lessons. It included a lot of pre-teaching and lots of reflection. So it continues to be a great opportunity for students to get real life experience outside of the school walls, where we are going out and we are interacting with the public and we are working on different things. For example, One year, students were asked to create a survey about animals in the Desert Dome. And they actually got permission from zoo staff to go around and ask um, members of or people from the public to answer questions about the animals that they had developed surveys around. And this was a great opportunity for students to really take ownership of what they were learning and go out and have a real life learning opportunity and interacting with people outside of the school building. It was just a great opportunity. And it was something that really was really easy to incorporate into our everyday learning experience with students. Now, during the school year, most of the time that we talk about SEL skills is happening in our advisement class. So on Mondays, we have a longer advisement class. And on those days, we focus around social and emotional skills. And in fact, the district has placed so much importance on SEL. It is actually one of the district's goals, and I included that here. The goal reads like this: improving the social and emotional wellness of students through student support and professional development. Specifically, Council Bluffs Schools has been focusing on the skill of self-management. So I wanted to share an example of one of the lessons that we had from just this last school year around self-management. Now, what this looks like is goal setting. So, of course, goal setting is a great thing that goes along with self-management and teaching kids how to manage themselves and their learning. And what we asked them to do was to create a personal or social goal And so the goal was not necessarily around something academic, like I want to make sure that I get an A in math class by the end of this semester. Instead, we really talked about different personal and social things that students feel like they could maybe improve on. So we spent about 3 days on this assignment, and we asked that the goals were something about being something personal or social to them in their everyday lives. So goals that you set for yourselves that pertain to how you manage your emotions, thoughts, and behaviors in different situations and or interact with others, including understanding different cultural views and acceptance of these differences. Okay, so we really focused on trying to get students to think about interacting with other people and how to ultimately make themselves better people and to be better citizens. And we also talked about why goal setting is important. We talked about how knowing where you are and where you want to be and trying to fill in what's in between there, where we are and where we need to be, and how eventually do we get there. This is a great opportunity for students to get some to get some practice with the self-management skill. Okay. And we use the SMART goal template so that students are able to set specific goals around social emotional learning and making it realistic and making it so it was something that they could track and they could see how well that they were doing with that. So that is just one example of how Council Bluffs Schools is trying to incorporate SEL and specifically self-management skills into our everyday work that we're doing with students. And it's something that's absolutely helpful for students, and it's something that they're doing really well with, especially as we talk about it every single year. Students are continuing to get better and better and better at these SEL skills, including self-management. Okay. Like I've stated before, I think the most important thing to remember around SEL skills is making sure to develop that relationship with students and developing that rapport and trust. And so that students feel comfortable talking about these things and reflecting on these things with you and having those discussions. And it's something that, like I said, it's not only something that children can benefit from, but it's actually also something that we as adults can all improve on as well. And ultimately, what it does is it helps us to be better teachers, and it helps them to be better students and eventually to be better people going on into their careers and the rest of their lives. Okay. The last thing that I wanted to include today is, of course, my references here. And so I will leave that up there. And Thank you for watching my presentation today.